Hey there, this is Clay Anderson. Just wanted to give you a Minnesota Avenue perspective. December 20th, 2016. Real estate along Minnesota Avenue, as Southway stockholders have seen forever. We're going to look at 41st Street going all the way down to 14th Street and kind of give you an idea of what that looks like. I basically shot a bunch of pictures through my car phone one morning at 7 in the morning or so on the 20th of December. And here's the Minnesota Avenue 41st. You got Little Caesars, Kitty Corner is that Staples, Taylor's Pantry, McDonald's, and the hardware store, Ace Hardware. Different franchise owner now, but basically, it's had the little casino or piano place or something on the north there. That's just adjacent to the Hy-Vee or the Lewis Drug that also has just north of it all this Billion Motors. This is Suds Up, Soaps Up. Chris Pappas has that. It's available for sale. He wants to redevelop that. Along just north of that is the Crow Bar and Valet Cleaners. Across the street, if you recall, is the fire station and the Papa Doc's bar. It used to be Wild West or something like that. And then a little farther north on the east side is Culver's, along with Famous Dave's. Norman's Menswear just went out of business. They just retired. I know Bob's wife died and felt like it was time to move on. And so I presume that the building will be up for sale shortly. But they did have a going out of business sale right around Christmas. Across the street from that was that old Christian bookstore. It's been vacant for quite a while, I think, and fairly large space. If you recall, the next photo has a kind of an L-shaped additional storage in the back. Don't really know much about that other than the fact that it's not a very attractive building. To the right of this picture would be Metabank, and there's the Avera McKinnon. The Avera's physical deal for handicaps, and then you've got BNP, and then just to the other side of BNP, south of that was U.S. Bank and lamps and shades and things like that. So that's been pretty standard for the last 10 years or so. What was the Burger King is now a Einstein Bagel and Caribou Coffee combination. We've got 3 or 4 of these units in town, and just north of that, of course, is the little casino with time loan plan, 2204. And across the street of that, of course, is the south end of Southway. Notice the big pylon sign. We've kind of basically let the last tenant take advantage of that. You can tell I'm doing probably 30 miles an hour here. Still pretty good picture, but here's 2116. That's I think there's a couple places maybe need to be leased out there. So I think it's Core Trust Bank up on the top of that billboard there. Right across the street, of course, Core Trust Bank, our next long-term tenant, hopefully. Basically on their side of that, it's O'Reilly's. They've been there for 10 years. It was a Hy-Vee liquor, if you recall. 10 years. They're 9 years into their lease, and they'll have 2 more, another 10, 20 years there. This is Fred Assum's place. That's up for development. He's interested in finding somebody else to rebuild for that. Just north of that is the Psychic Reader. Has been time loan plan or psychic type stuff for a lot of years. What was across from the old Pizza Hut. And this was the old Bagel Boy. That's still vacant. That I think it is. There may be people living upstairs, but it seems vacant right across from the old Caribou. This is a new little strip. Has Profiles in it, which is a Sanford deal with JJ, the food sandwiches. And then Wells Fargo's been there for a lot of years. Right across the street, of course, is the Walgreens. Just north of Wells Fargo was Hall's Crown Casino, which I know they had an opportunity to do Walgreens and decided not to do it. So he has passed away, and I think it's probably his kids probably running it or owning it now. Then a couple, single family home type businesses for tax prep. This is Nelson and Nelson. Used to be down in Bob Smith's building. They renovated that. I don't know if it's a Lions Bank, but really did a good job on the outside. That, of course, is the old Family Practice Center or Family Practice Physicians, which is now Sanford, probably going on 20 years. And then, of course, you have the Freedom gas station that's been there forever. Now, right across the street from this is Verneides, what is now their Mitsubishi and Triumph and motorcycle dealership. They also recently, probably 2 years ago, bought the Mid-America Motoplex, which is a huge complex out by the Harley-Davidson and 2990 corridor there. But they've got 2 blocks here, just everything, sitting with cars on it. And then coming up to this hill, this is 22nd Street. We've got the Slim Chickens, which was where the old Bob Schmidt, where Nelson used to be. That's been under construction. It's all leveled out. It's got a foundation to it right now, I believe. And just north of them, this was kind of a weird parcel that Andy sold that basically had this exterior building, pretty dilapidated. This used to be the old medical x-ray. And then behind that, and it's actually on Spring and 22nd, the other building there. And of course, at the top of the hill there was that car place that's been there forever. Ristys, that's the old, really cool building there. And then there's the old medical building where Mike McGowan moved to. This used to be right across from Kelly's, that single level that used to have like a gym in it. And since then, this car lot, it seems like it's been turned over by several different owners or renters. I don't know if Verneides owns it or not, but this used to be the old Taco John's and was vacant for a couple of years, I believe. Jim's Burgers, never tried it. Who knows what that'll be like. But then a little farther down, right across from actually where the old Kelly's was that little strip center with little units there. I think a couple of those are vacant, along with the old Deerfield Bank that basically went under. And they lost their building. I think part of the basement's being leased out, but other than that, it hasn't had anything more going on with it. Okay. And then, if you recall, you had the Subaru dealership right to the north of you. So you had that building that kind of housed some unique cars and motorcycles and things like that. That I think was owned by the same guys who own the Subaru dealership. That's been moved down to 69th, Minnesota, in a property that's probably 3 times the size of this or more. So that's a redevelopment opportunity. And this is the old Taco John's. It's got a new facade on it, or just the exterior looks good. That's Taco John's. The next to them was Gustav's Greenery. He's tuned that up with some nice drive. It looks good. And, he's probably getting closer to retirement age. You also have the corner there that's always had the little pawn shops or, CNC bookstore. It used to be there, but now I think both the little buildings there are pawn shops. And then across the way is Keystone Mortgage, an old company I used to have. And so that's 18th in Minnesota. A little farther down in that corner here, you've had a lot of auto glass. And I think there's like an apparel, second used hand clothing store. Really just a small place. Pita Pit was the Taco John's there, or Taco Bell, I don't recall. I think it's Taco Bell because they took that over. Here's the old Barnett Funeral Home. It's been there for, I don't know, maybe 80 years. And as far as I know, they still have funerals there. I see them once in a while, I think advertised in the paper. This has been a newer, probably 8 years in a row now, or 8 years since they built a brand new building here. Tore down a couple of the houses there originally. Across the street from that on the west side of Minnesota Avenue, you've got a little strip mall that was put up that, again, just north of the Barnett, had a bunch of little houses on it. The Taco Bell is there now. That was built after the old place changed. And then from there, you also had and that's some nicer things. Aztec, I just ate there the other day. It's great food. Across the street was the cabinet place from Show Place down in Harrisburg. And that used to be a Sioux Falls Realtors Association or something, if I recall. This used to be the old, the Hot Fish, whatever that was. Now it's a really crappy Mexican restaurant, not very good food. This, of course, was that little place that they always were selling cigarettes and fixing computers. It looks vacant and just, right next to the tracks. And the other side of the street there, you've got that traditional parking lot that's filled with cars of different guys seem to be going in and out all the time. Another Quartos Bank big sign there. That's good. And I think it was the guys from Highway 11 that at one time at least had that. And these 4 or 5 different office buildings right near the tracks on 15th in Minnesota, they've been there. They haven't really changed their looks. Still look good. And all the way up to the corner of 14th, where you're going to have First Premier Bank. They have their last building there, and there's another building, La Follette and Jan's Brandt. And so that kind of ends up the 14th Street end of this trip. It goes down a little farther. There's actually quite a bit of development going up, towards the top of Minnesota Avenue Hill. But you notice in the back there, actually the old Giggleby's, that was converted into a nice bank from out of state, and then those additional apartments there for low-income housing. So there you have it, a wrap on Sioux Falls real estate from 41st to 14th.